All right, I've got something really important to tell you. There's been a lot of things that have been happening in the beauty industry in the last few months, and something major just happened this week. But before I get into that, let me just kind of like bring you up to date as to what really started this whole snowball effect. And in case you don't already know, Color Wow has been a brand that I've been promoting for, I want to say, close to a decade. And I will say that over my 30 years of selling beauty supply products in retail, Color Wow rose to the level where I would have to say they have been my best beauty supply or beauty product retail brand that I've ever carried. And the reason why is, it started off as, a really unique line, founded by Gail Federici. And she basically got back into the beauty business after being out for a lot of years because she founded another company way back in the day. And, she sold that company and then she, was in the beauty realm of like the entertainment business. She saw all of these problems happen with people that she encountered that wasn't really being met by the current beauty companies. So that's when she decided to set out and create, another brand. And that's, she started with Color Wow's Root Cover Up because, she saw all these people, they were going around with these roots. And she, set out to find a solution for that. And the Root Cover Up was the actual resulting product that has been a great seller all these years, and that's what started the brand. That's why they came up with the name Color Wow. It was hair color, but not real hair color, but temporary color. And then whenever somebody would apply it, they would go wow. And that kind of thing happened time and time again over the years as they started developing products. And we started off with the Root Cover Up, but the brand didn't really take off until the Color Wow Dream Coat was launched. We had Color Wow for, I want to say, a couple years before that happened. And I don't think a lot of people really got what Color Wow was about until, me and their global education director, Giles Robinson. He worked with me closely in the field. We would go around doing demos and classes all throughout Jacksonville. And he actually helped me build that brand to where, that first year, I think, according to them, I was like the number one, sales rep at the time. I don't have a really big territory. So, that ended very quickly because the next year, they started really taking off all throughout the country. And then they got, people like Chris Appleton involved. And it's just that all the marketing and everything that they did really catapulted them to where they are today. And, the whole social media, frenzy and all of that. But unfortunately, with all of that comes, it comes a big price to pay. And basically, from what I've heard, and I don't know exactly all the details, but the growth and the strength of the company got kind of like almost out of control, and they needed a company, a bigger company to invest more money because all of these things that they were investing in took a lot of money, each and every year. And unfortunately, a lot of the salons weren't keeping up with it, which is one of the reasons why it started going retail. They started putting it in different outlets like Sephora and Ulta, and they've got another distributor that was selling it. And so all of these things actually affected us as sales reps because, when we first got it, we were the exclusive distributor for it. But even then, we weren't enough, according to the founder, to really, keep it going or grow it fast enough to where she needed to have it to actually pay for, all of the, the TV spots and everything that she was, paying for. So to make a long story short, that fun ride actually ended. And a few months ago, they actually announced to us that L'Oreal purchased the company, or she sold to L'Oreal. And I knew it was coming just based on a lot of the things that they did. But I was hoping it wasn't gonna happen as soon as it did. I was hoping maybe I can get a few more years out of it, and maybe by the time I get ready to retire, it wouldn't be such a big deal. But it actually is happening too soon. And you know, uh, I actually used to represent L'Oreal when I first started this business. And, we all know, what happens when bigger companies acquire, smaller companies that were started or founded in a certain way where they used certain ingredients. And I'm not even pointing to L'Oreal as being the only one that does this, but I think most of the major companies that acquire these smaller companies, they eventually change the products, and they're not exactly the same as they were when they were first, made by the original owners. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I would just tell you, history shows that that actually does happen. And at first, I thought it was just L'Oreal, but when I started seeing some of the other manufacturers, acquire some of our other brands, they're doing the same thing. And a lot of it is economics, and or they can't get the same ingredients. These bigger companies, they have ingredients that they use with their other products that they feel are lower in cost. If they can lower the cost of products, they can make more money, especially if they're selling at the same price. And a lot of times they'll actually raise the prices, in an effort to make more money. And this was a big investment by L'Oreal. Some industry insiders think it was like $1 billion sale. Nobody really knows for sure. I mean, I'm sure somebody knows, but most of us don't really know the facts. And so, they've actually been taking ownership of this for quite a while. And, I actually predicted by the first of the year, we won't have L'Oreal. Well, I was close. They announced to us this past week or to our owners, that as of the end of January, we will no longer be able to sell Color Wow. And that's a major hit. That's a major hit for me to take. It's going to account for roughly at least 25% of my business, and maybe more. It just depends on what time frame we're looking at. And I would say that in the last year or so, I've had more and more customers complain about the fact that they get tired of their customers sitting in their chair while they're recommending Color Wow and other brands. Color Wow is not the only one. They're recommending a particular product, and then they have their customer while they're in their chair order it off of Amazon or other websites. And the trend today is, if you send a customer to a manufacturer's website, first thing they try to do is they get a pop-up that offers you a discount or a special deal on products, and in exchange for your email. And what's going to happen is, once you give them your email, they're going to direct market you. And so that kind of ruins the whole vibe with hairdressers. They've always wanted to have a brand that was exclusive to them, that that their customers just can't get anywhere. It's not like they're getting it any cheaper anywhere else. It's just that, especially for Amazon, a lot of people just feel like it's more convenient. And so that's been the rub also. So my company, my business has basically, it's taken a hit in the last few months. And on top of that, some of our other relationships with some manufacturers, and I won't mention, the relationships haven't been so good. So some of that business has been dying. And we also, the company, started looking at some of the brands that weren't moving as well, or moving as much, or maybe not even worth carrying anymore. So they started cleaning house with that. And the reason why they're doing that is they're making room for new innovative brands. And so, we just picked up a couple of new brands, one being Allure and another being Gold Professional. And from what I understand, we're going to be picking up, 2 to 3 more new brands in the coming next quarter. So that's kind of like the backstory of what's been going on, and it's really been unnerving for me. I've been doing this for over 30 years and I've been through it multiple times and it's always painful, and sometimes, we recovered with no problem, but it's a lot of work making the transition. And then again, we have to go back to our loyal customers and let them know, hey, hopefully you're on board with us and you'll stick with me while we make this transition. And, for the most part, most of my good customers will do that. But, I totally understand when, and I've never had a brand like Color Wow where it's just such a great product. It's going to be hard to get people to switch off of certain things with that brand, whether it's being sold online and everywhere. Sometimes it just doesn't matter. So, I'm just, if you're my customer watching this, this is what's happened. I'm being straightforward with you, and if you want to make the transition with me, please, just hang in there. Be patient. I promise you it's coming. Our Gold Professional brand that we just picked up, one of the things that people love about it is, well, for one, it's owned by 2 hairstylists that, actually created this brand back in 2008. So it's not brand new. It's just brand new to the US. But but one of the biggest things that people love about it is it is clean beauty. And the fact that it was founded in Denmark and made in Europe. They undergo a lot more stringent, rules and regulations as far as ingredients. So, European products are made at a higher stringent, level than what's made here. And so, they've won multiple awards for being as clean as they are. And that's under the European standards. So, that's one thing that a lot of people really look at. Beautiful packaging. And the biggest thing though, especially when you're comparing brands that are being sold everywhere, you can't buy this anywhere online. You can even go to their website. There's no pop-ups trying to get your email address. There's nowhere on the website where you can order. It's only an information site. And so that's one of the reasons why our hairdressers, at least some of the people that have gotten on board with it, that's what they love about it. But, whether the Gold is for you or not, because it is an affordable luxury brand, so it's a little bit higher price point. It is actually priced really well, considering that a little bit goes a long way. So it may look like it's more expensive than Color Wow, but it's actually probably lower price per usage, per cost per ounce, or whatever, however you want to say it. And but having said that, that may not be right for everybody, and the price point is just may not be right. You may not even like the fragrance, although most of the people that are from Europe, they love the fragrance. It's got that European perfumey fragrance that a lot of people love. But if you're coming from a sweet smelling brand, you may not like it. It may be a little bit of a transition. But the big news that I want to tell you before I get into this other thing is that another major shakeup happened with one of my competitors. And this guy that I'm going to talk about, he actually recently went through a major thing, and this is his 3rd thing that's happened to him. So he was working for the L'Oreal Group for many years, and then in the last year, they basically, they decided they wanted to weed out a lot of their reps. I guess their strategy is they're trying to drive more customers into their stores, and the reps that they have are going to be, they're higher in, I don't know how you say it, but those reps are going to be calling on higher end salons, like salons that that purchase the lot. And what they did is they actually required everybody to come in and re-interview again, no matter how many years or how long you've been with the company. They were re-interviewing everybody. And unfortunately, this guy is one that lost his job after all these years of being with the company, and he went to work for another company. And this other company is a smaller distributor, and as luck would have it, he actually lost his job with that one company and got right in with this one, and had a really great color brand. He acquired Kuhn Professional Hair Color, and also Allure was another brand that he acquired, which is a brand that we also have. Now, they had it first, and so one of the reasons why I haven't been promoting the Allure as much is because he had it everywhere. He had at least a year or more head start on me with that, and I just felt like I wasn't going to really promote a brand that that he had everywhere. I wanted more of an exclusive brand that I was going to promote to my clients. But anyway, he worked really hard on that brand, also with Kuhn. And then the biggest word that happened this week, they got a notice that they can no longer sell Kuhn. So just like that, they lost Kuhn. And that sort of thing just doesn't happen in this industry. I mean, I can't even remember in all my over 30 years where a company just said to quit selling right then and there. Something major happened. We don't know what it was, but anyway, he had the company that actually acquired Kuhn. They contacted him that night, and they made him an offer he couldn't refuse, and now he's with that company. So he's been with them for a couple of days, or 2 or 3 days. And, I just spoke with him on the phone yesterday to find out what the heck is going on. Because even though we've never really talked much over the years, he's actually a pretty decent guy. And so, I don't have any animosity toward him. And I actually felt, really bad for him, the fact that he lost Kuhn after spending 2 years promoting that brand. And I know he worked hard, because when you lose your job from one company you've been with for so long, you got to get out there and really hustle. And he did. And for him to lose it just like that for no fault of his own, something happened with the distributor that carried it. So I'm not going to even name names, but anybody that knows about that brand in my territory knows who I'm talking about. But anyway, he got on the phone, and then he told me, he said, "Hey, I'm not going to have Allure. Feel free to go after all those clients that have Allure. So anybody watching this that was buying it from him, please don't hesitate to give me a call. I'm going to continue to carry it." But having said that, now, we have to, as a company, we have to do what we can to promote our color brands to go up against that one and all the others. And, our best hair color brand that we've had for a few years now is Oligo Professional. They've been groundbreaking new technology. They're ammonia-free, permanent hair color, PPD-free, gluten-free. And, a lot of people don't really understand their permanent hair color, or they haven't gravitated as much toward that as they have the Colora Gloss. Now, the Colora Gloss goes head to head with Shade GQ. And, with what's been going on with the L'Oreal, and, I don't even want to say too much about it, but, there's been a lot of shakeup on their side of it too. And all you got to do is do a search for L'Oreal. I don't even want to say it. It's they have their own issues that they're battling right now. And, I don't want to say a whole lot, because, stuff like that's happened to us and some of our brands. And the last thing I want to do is actually go and, really rub the wound in. But I just want to put it out there that if anybody is using Shade GQ or any other demi-permanent gloss or any kind of color like that, just know that Color Gloss is a huge winner. They actually have the best color. You just don't know it as well as Shade GQ because, to be frank, Shade GQ has been around for over 40 years. So they've got it everywhere. It's all over the world, wherever they can sell it. And, there's been a lot of people that have come up with formulas and everything. But, the one thing that I can tell you that Color Gloss has that, these other brands don't have. Color Gloss is ammonia-free, alcohol-free, PPD-free, and gluten-free. It smells nice. It has no backing to it, so there's no tan or brown backing. So when it fades on tone. Also, how would you like to be able to flash tone in 10 minutes or less? 3 to 10 minutes. And the tones will last up to 24 or 25 washes. It's easy to use, although you've got to, learn how to use it because of the new technology and how it works. If you follow the old rules of how you use Shade GQ or any other brand, when you go to this, you got to learn its characteristics. You got to know that it doesn't need to stay on near as long. So if you leave it on longer and just walk away, you're going to get a lot darker tone than what you expected. But I promise you, the Oligo Color Gloss, the Color Permanent, I sell more Oligo Blacklight Bleach than I've ever sold in any other line, ever. I sell a lot of it. In fact, I've got a client every month. She orders at least 10 to 15 bags of the 2-pound bleach. And if that doesn't say that it's a great bleach, I don't know what will. But I don't have anybody that orders quite that much because they just do a lot of blondes. But just know you can't lose with Oligo Blacklight. You can't lose with anything with Oligo because, or for one, it's a Canadian-made product brand. They've already committed to us that there's not going to be any price increases in 2026, no matter what happens out there with tariffs and all of that. And it is just a really, really good brand. And, I do sell other color brands. Now, my next closest one is Aloxi, and I love Aloxi also. And that's an American-owned brand. And, it's got its positives. And, so between those two, I sell a lot of Oligo and a lot of Aloxi hair color. And, if you want a no-brainer permanent hair color that's proven itself over decades, it's the Aloxi Chroma color. Now I know their Luminex has been the thing that's been out there, and a lot of people have been trying that, but I'll tell you, I don't ever get anybody complaining about Aloxi Chroma color for gray coverage. And I recently had somebody that's been with me for all my career. And unfortunately, the color brand that he was using that he loved, they quit making it because it was too costly to make it for the price point that they were selling it at. And so he had to make a choice to change, and he wanted to stay with me, and I appreciate his loyalty. But I told him about the Chroma color, and when he got it and started using it, he was so pleasantly surprised. Every time I went in there, he says, "Rich, I got to tell you about this color I just did on this client." And all of his customers are almost 100% gray. All his clients are gray because he's had them for all these years, and most of his clients are older, like he is, like I am. And so you can't go wrong with that kind of stuff. But the shakeup with the Cune is the big thing, and I just want to let everybody know, if you're my customer or you're one of our customers in the Salon Center, and maybe you're with another rep, just know that we've got a lot of good things ahead of us come the first quarter of 2026. So right now, I will tell you, it's been a bit rough. I'm just being straight honest. This has been one of the roughest times I've had in a lot of years. But I feel confident that things are going to turn around, and we've got some fun things coming. And a lot of sometimes you go on for a few years and things just get stale, and that's kind of like where it's been. Even with Color Wow, we got to the point where they kept launching products, and I don't know, it just wasn't as exciting. But we do have some exciting things. So hopefully you'll stay with me, and if you have any questions about any of this, feel free to get in touch with me. I know, for a lot of you that's watching, this may not make any difference to you. You may be one of my subscribers on my YouTube channel that are watching this, and this may not make any sense to you, but my focus on my channel is going to be more toward people over 50 and 60, to help them make content or help them move into retirement, and maybe creating another side hustle. So that's where my channel is moving to. I'm still going to make some product videos from time to time, some hair care videos. This is one of them that I decided to do live because I really didn't want to edit this, and I really didn't have the time to go through this whole thing. So I know I may be rambling on some of this stuff, but this is something straight from my heart. I'm just like I said, it's a tough time, and moving into the week of Christmas, sales. This has been one of the lower sales times that I can remember, because normally the week before Christmas is a very busy week, but not this year. And I don't know if this is something that's happened with all of my customers, if they're experiencing the same thing, but I feel like things are going to really look up come January, February, and March, with all of the new things that we're going to have coming down the pike. And some of these things some of these brands that we're going to launch, you may have already heard about. Maybe one of these other distributors are no longer going to have these other products. And by the way, if you're a customer that's already buying Allurium from this distributor that I'm not going to mention, and you'll know who I'm talking about. If you're buying it and you're not buying it from me, you may want to consider buying it from me, because it's not looking good for this distributor. Just from what I've heard, and from the guy that just left, he actually, liked the people there, but he said, he can't survive when they keep losing brands. And, when you look at what they have now, what they have left, there's not a whole lot of strong brands to keep them afloat, unless they miraculously get some major brand that will invigorate them. So, our owners have been doing this for a long time. So, we have over, I forget how many years, but I've been with the original owners over 30. And, they're well respected in the industry. So I would say that, I would bet my money on the Salon Center versus some of the other smaller distributors out there. Our main competitors are, the Salon Centrics, the Cosmoprofs, Paramount, TrueStar, all these other ones that are out there that have distribution throughout the U.S. They are my main competitors. Plus the fact that I compete against the stores. So one thing I want to say, and this came up from a customer today when she ordered something from me, and she found it, a little cheaper online somewhere, and she said they had free shipping. Well, I'm like, okay, so this same thing is going to happen to you from your customers. So, you're selling to your customers, and they can buy everything that you're selling. They can buy online somewhere. And I guarantee you, it's probably going to be cheaper. They're going to sell it to them direct. They're going to have free shipping. Just know that what goes around comes around. And, we're in a relationship business. So, the one thing I said to her is that, the one thing that you're, the place that you're going to order, or that you say is cheaper than I am. I don't remember the last time that they actually paid you a visit at your studio, in your salon. That's the thing. We are in the field. We don't charge any more for the products, on it, on a regular basis than any other distributor. You're not paying any more to have a rep. The only thing you're paying for is shipping. And what I want to tell people is, like, this person said, the shipping is a killer. And I'm like, well, our shipping's only $12.99. $12.99 flat rate, but if you have somebody else to ship with, it's $6.99. What I always ask is, like, am I not worth $13 to have a rep come in and you can ask any questions? I've got over 30 years experience. What is that worth? And the same thing can be said about you. Why wouldn't your customer buy from you? Because you're the one that's their consultant. You're the one that is dealing with their hair. You should have that conversation with them too. If they're buying their hair products after you've told them everything about it, if they're buying it off of Amazon or anywhere else, you need to have that conversation because you're their rep. And the one thing I just want to point out to everybody is that, yeah, you can go and buy all your stuff from the stores, but don't complain when one day you don't ever see a rep again. Because the one thing I can say is the in-person rep is a dying breed right now. Unless you guys utilize this, unless you continue to buy from us. And that's the same thing that's happened with, people that say support local businesses. When the Amazon thing became a big thing, if you don't support local businesses at all, then they will go away. They'll go out of business. And we've seen it happen. So if you want to keep a rep, utilize this, and if you're one of my customers and you need something more from me, if you don't see me on a regular basis, there's a reason why. I put it in my emails, and I'm like, it's not to be rude or anything, but I just want to say, I've got to spend my time wisely. I've been doing this for over 30 years, and the last thing I want to do is waste your time and waste my time. Now, if you don't want to see me, just let me know. Just come out and tell me. I'll get it. But when you don't say anything, and of course, eventually I'll get it. When you don't buy anything from me, I won't be back. Now, I may pop in when I think I have something you might be interested in. But if I have something that I know is like a no-brainer thing, and you still don't buy, you're still not interested, then you won't ever see me until you call me and say, Rich, hey, I need you to come in. But don't ask me for, about products that you're going to go buy from the store anyway, but you want me to give all of the information and, just expend my knowledge about the product. Just no more than would you want your customers to get all the information out of you so that they can just go and buy it on Amazon or go buy it from a local store when they could have just bought it from you. Anyway, I didn't want to get on a negative thing, but this is just some of the things that, people need to understand. This is a real life thing that's happening. And, maybe your rep is not saying that, or maybe we just don't have the opportunity to say this because, we don't want to say anything like this in front of a customer. And a lot of times you're so busy, you just don't have time to talk about it. But here it is. It's live. This is actually going live on my YouTube channel. So I've got work to do, but I just wanted to get this out. But please, if you're looking for a hair color brand, please contact me. I need to stay in business. But anything that I offer, you're going to get the straight scoop from me. And just know that these brands that I recommend, these are winner brands. Now, I'm not saying you won't buy something from me, and there may be a chance that you just don't like it. There's always that chance. We have people that don't like things because they don't like the way it smells, or it didn't work exactly like their previous product. Nothing's ever going to be just like something else. And if that was the case, then my wife said she wasn't going to call me, and she did. But I got to get off of here. So I'm sure she's on her way home, so I can get out the door. She had to go to a couple of appointments, but we have an emergency Zoom call tomorrow to talk about what's happening with Kuhn. So just know that we're going to have some great things, great offers. And if you're wanting to get into oligo, just know that we're going to have some opportunities here in the near future. Nothing's going to happen here in December, because we know nobody wants to make a change now, because who would want to do that when you're so busy and you're just trying to get through the holidays? But just be prepared. We're going to have some amazing offers come January. So if you're ready, contact me. All right. I appreciate each and every one of you, especially if you're my customer. Just know that, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I hope, I wish all the success that you'll have in the new year. I hope things get better for everybody. And I think they will. So just have faith and be confident that, we've got your back, and we're going to have some things to make up for, what's been happening. Like I said, the Color Wow thing is been major, and the Kuhn thing for my competitor, it's another big whammy, this may not be the end of the shakeup. There could be other things coming down that we just don't know about. So just be ready. Always be ready to be able to adapt. And if you're ready to make a change in your retail, let me know. All right. Thanks for watching. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button. And just know, if you wonder what this platform is that I'm doing right now, this is StreamYard that I've got an account with. And this is one of the things that allows me to do a live video. And it's got a whole setup here, and it's actually streaming my landscape format for my YouTube, and it's also got a vertical one recording at the same time for my reels. So it's a great little platform. I've had an account with this for quite a while. I don't use it as often as I should, but I'm going to start doing more live videos. And especially if I can get somebody else to come on with me, and maybe we'll have a talk. And if there's anybody in the industry that is with one of my manufacturers that wants to get on with me and talk about your brand, hey, I'm all the willing. So just let me know when you want to do that. And if you have any questions about any of this, please be sure to message me. Put your comments in the comments below. And by the way, if you want to get a hold of my my new ebook that I just created, it's called the Aegis Creator Toolkit. It kind of outlines some of the equipment and stuff that I use, some of the software, and I'm actually going to be making it even better and better as time goes on. But I've already got it out there, and you can get it just by clicking on the link in the description. Once I get it up there, I don't have it there now, but I'll have a link to where you can download it, and hopefully it'll help you make that transition from Instagram or TikTok. If you don't already know, YouTube is where you need to be. It's the fastest growing, largest platform out there, and it's a platform where you can grow long term, and you can actually make some money doing this. And if you want to learn more about how to do that, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me, because you're just going to follow along with my journey as I go through the motions to build my YouTube channel even further. So again, I appreciate you watching, and have a happy holiday, and I look forward to seeing you in the new year. And maybe I'll make another video before the end of the year. So take care. Bye.